Hello, everybody. It's my privilege to introduce to you, all the way from the south side of Chicago, the man, the myth, the legend, my Theo, your brother, the Southside Unicorn.
Hey, everybody, it's Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and it is Saturday, Wassup Saturday. That's right, so we get to chill out together and just talk about whatever, you know what I mean? It's just, it's Saturday. I hope you're doing something fun. I hope you're not freaking out about the impending time change that's coming up, because never can seem to get it right. It's just like fall back and spring forward, and, you know, it's 1 hour, and they say you're going to get an extra hour of sleep. I really don't see how. I mean, it's like weird math. It's like borrowing something that's not really there, but it is there. You know, it's a mess, you know. Looks like a lot of people are ready to just do away with the daylight savings time activity. One guy that I was talking to, he said, we don't farm no more. He said, we don't farm no more, so what do we need it for? He's like, that was for farmers so they could have daylight while they were farming, and we don't do that no more. And, I mean, that was just one of those moments for me. You know, the big old question mark popped over my head. I was like, boing, the heck is this man talking about? How do you eat? How do you explain that Captain Crunch that's got all that wheat and all that stuff in it, you know, and the good old taste and the sugar and all that, you know, Captain Crunch. It's just, you know, and he's like, we don't need that no more. But then I thought about it. I'm like, you know, on Sunday, it'll be 5 o'clock, but it'll still feel like 6 o'clock. So what do you do with that? You know, it takes a little bit of time for it to fade off, sort of like jet lag. You know what I mean? It'll fade off eventually, but you still got to go through it. And there's this, you know, weird idea that we actually get depressed. We actually have heart palpitations, and we feel alone and scared and all this stuff because the clock changes just a little. Could you imagine if we never had the concept of time? Could you imagine if we said, when the sun is high in the sky, meet me by the boulder? I mean, granted, you'd have to wait a little while, and you could never really say somebody was late no more, because it will be lent to your interpretation as to when the sun was high in the sky. You know, is it high over here? You know, I was 2 blocks over here, so it wasn't quite high yet. So what are you talking about? I'm not late. You know, so I guess somebody sat there and was like, okay, guess we got to invent time for this fool. You know, he don't know what high in the sky is. So, you know, they put a little stick on a circle and created the sundial. And, you know, from that, when the sun is high in the sky, it shows on the sundial for everybody the exact same way, sort of, you know. And now, I mean, I look at it this way. We can either keep it or leave it. It don't really matter anymore, because everybody is digital. It's going to do it on its own. You're just going to wake up on Sunday morning and it's going to be the right time. You know, when I was growing up, you talk about a hot mess. You talk about for like 24 hours, I think sometimes even 2 days, we used to have to cut each other some slack. You know, even back in those days when I was still cutting my teeth in law enforcement, security and all that, and you have the little punch card that you got to punch down in the machine, we was all hot in an uproar. Did you change the clock? Did you fix the clock? I don't want to get cheated out of my hour, man. And if I remember right, let me see if I remember this right. The way it would work is they didn't really take the hour back from you or give it to you, because they said it balanced out throughout the year. So, you know, you didn't really get it, and you really didn't lose it. You know, but I guess if you got fired halfway through the year, you lost some money. But that's the way it was back in the day. You know, I guess I'll say it that way. Back in the olden days, you know, we didn't have all this technology you young people have. So what's the fuss about? What are you all worried about? You don't even have to lift a finger. It's just gonna happen. And if you got your clock set to get you to school at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, don't worry. It's still going to work. You're still going to get your favorite song that wakes you up, or your favorite, sound, beep, 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 bam, bam, whatever it is. It's going to still happen for you, and you didn't have to do anything. So what's the big fuss about spring forward and fall back? Just do it, Can we keep some traditions? I mean, maybe we should just keep it as a tradition, just something that we did back in the day. And, maybe your grandkids, not mine, your grandkids, they might say, you know what, this is really bogus, man. We I'm on Jupiter. I don't need to care what time it is back on Earth. Fall back, spring forward. What about here, man? What about us Saturnians? I mean, can it be called Saturnians or Saturn? Think about that. 100 years from now, we're on the moon and all this kind of stuff. I guess by then, daylight savings time will have no meaning. You figure it out for yourself. Well, today's show, which is Wassup Saturday, has its title like every other show does, and this one's called All They Do Is Boo. That's all they do is boo. I'm sitting there looking at the Democrat Party, and I was doing some, quick research on these cats, because I myself have never, ever been a Democrat. I was, how they have in the movie Blade, where they say, you're not a pure-blood vampire, you were merely turned. Now, I'm not trying to say that the Republican Party are vampires. You know better than that. It's just the analogy I choose to use. How they in Blade, they would say, you were just turned. You're not a pure-blood. Well, I, Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, I am a pure-blood. I can't explain it. I don't know how to relate it to you any other way than this. I came to this planet hardwired. I came here the person that I am. And, I miss my mom something dearly. She passed away in 1999. And if she were here, I would be begging her, Mama, you got to come on my show. You got to do it. Tell these people that I'm not lying. Tell them that this is exactly the truth about me. My mama used to have to defend me when I was a little kid because, she'd be sitting there because my mama was a Democrat, born and raised in Blytheville, Arkansas, moved up north to Chicago like pretty much everybody did back in those days, the late 50s, early 60s. Everybody was heading to the north, And my mama, her sister, everybody, straight up Democrats, working for the aldermen, pushing papers, working the polls, and glad to do it, but they were working the polls for the Democrats, And I don't know what moved me, what was inside of me, but I would look at them, and I'm telling you, this is like at age 10, age 9, and I felt a strange curiosity, even though they got some money for it. I remember them always talking about, girl, did you get your check? I got mine. How much did you make? I would think that they got the same money. They all worked the polls together, but for whatever reason, it was different monies. And I remember the alderman, slick old dude, driving around in the nicest car in the community. The only people that had a nicer car than the alderman were the pimps and the hustlers. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else had whatever they had that sort of kind of ran. I mean, hangers holding cars together. I remember that. And I remember looking around at my circumstances and everything. And I was like, what is causing this? My mama is a good woman. She works hard. She's cooler than a fan, Even though that wasn't a colloquialism back then, I added that right now. And I instinctively just wasn't feeling the Democrats, So here I am, my mom and them talking about Mayor Daley and, this is going to be this, and Jesse Jackson is doing this, and whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm like, man, look, Jesse Jackson is a punk. I mean, I didn't know I was putting my life in danger, but I was, at like 10 years old. Actually, who I guess I could akin myself to? I could probably akin myself to, you remember Good Times? JJ's little brother? They used to call him the militant midget or whatever, Michael. I was a real live Michael. I mean, I just was a radical. I wasn't feeling the Democrat push. I saw the way my teachers were treating us. You get these, white Democrat teachers coming in from the suburbs, park their car, come into the school building, and jack us around. Couldn't wait to get into the faculty room to go talk to, because see, and this is the kind of kid I was. I get on the ground and I crawl up to the faculty door, because it had that big old glass square. If you were standing up, they could see you. But if you was crawling down on the ground, they didn't see you. And there's that little bit of space at the bottom of the door. Guess what Kenny White was doing? I was listening. And the things I heard hurt my eardrum. I couldn't believe the way they were talking about us in there. I mean, they were literally talking about us like they were on safari, like they were on an excursion. And that just, I can't tell you what that did to me, about these Democrats. And when I got up off that floor and, wiped the little dust off my Sears gingham pants with the green and yellow, stripes and checks in them, because that was back in style back then, out of the Sears and Roebuck's catalog. That's the way I dressed, Had my little pants on, my shirt, my necktie, my little, cardigan sweater. I walked away from that door feeling a strange, somehow kind of way. But that's all right. Because, I realized at like age 10, age 11, I was done. I'm not messing with no Democrats. Love my mom, love my auntie, everybody. But I couldn't, man. I couldn't. So now, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and dive off into these Democrats. See, I'm caught up in some old thoughts right now, y'all. I'm sitting here, thinking about Chicago and how Jesse Jackson would come to Hamilton Park and do his Operation Push thing. And, they give us a soda, hot dog, and a balloon. There was some cool bands. They'd be playing some music and whatnot. And, you hear them get up there on the little stage and they do their little speeches and everything. And somewhere in the afternoon, the limo would roll back up and he'd get in it and drive away. And everything went back the way it was. And the helium came out the balloon. And it's, it's just kind of slowly creeping on the ground because it ain't got no more juice in it, Lots of those laying around. And that's the memory I'm having right now. And they never changed anything. Nothing changed after those, block parties. It was still the same block. And that's one of the things that galvanized me against becoming a Democrat. Because they never changed nothing. Looks like nothing's changed even now. Hey, it's time for a station break. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, it's Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and it is Wassup Saturday, second segment. Yeah, when we left off, I was doing a little bit of reminiscing, and we were talking about, daylight savings time. We got that covered, right? And it got me to thinking, y'all, during the break, I'm sitting here, going down memory lane and whatnot. So I guess that's just how we're going to do this show today. Hope you got your favorite drink with you. Oh, drinking song ready, and like I said, it ain't got to be no alcoholic beverage. It can be whatever, mint julep tea, whatever you like. Kool-Aid. I mean, personally, don't drink the Kool-Aid, but if you must, don't get your Kool-Aid. Get whatever you like to drink and put it in your hand right now, because the drinking song is going down. Let's do it, okay?
Ejem tafe deja I, Eshtak so taskos baskral batik, Empa jaj la mok jaj push, Jaj keles molor mi hoch, Shu.
Yeah, woo! Hey, that's Klingon. Believe it or not, it is an actual language. It is a true language. That's out of Star Trek. That's Klingonese, and that is the Klingon drinking song. You'll hear it from time to time, and I hope you just took a sip, because I just did. So, okay, my memory lane is taking me all over the place, and so I'm going to just go into a place like this. I want to talk about the 1968 Democratic National Convention that was held in Chicago in August 26th, as a matter of fact, 1968. But I'm going to do it this way. When I got out the Air Force and wanted to make my living here in California, that's the way I'll say it, my mama said, you know what, boy, I don't know why you got to do it like that. Because, see, I knew I wasn't going to stay in Chicago. There's no way I was going to do that. And I'd always just mused, what would it be like, live on the West Coast, Southern California beaches. And I'm telling you, when I first got out here, it was paradise. I didn't even believe a place like this could exist. And so my mama had a cousin out here. I always called him Uncle Joe, because he was much older than me. He was my mother's age. But it really is my second cousin, because it was my mother's first cousin. And she said, look, when you get out there, here's his phone number. You go ahead and put this number in your pocket, and you call him when you get out there. Well, I called him. Never met the man before in my life until, I got out here. Man, he rolled up in this Volkswagen. His name is Joe Flowers. He rolled up in his little Volkswagen. And he's just the coolest dude. I mean, he was so freaking cool. He rode up to me and he's like, hey, so what are you out here to do? Are you just coming to visit? Or are you going to try to make a living out here? And I told him, I said, I'm going to become a cop. I'm probably going to get on with LASO or LAPD or something like that. He's like, oh, great. So where are you living? Where are you staying? I'm like, I got enough money to last me for a month, and I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it do what it do. He looked at me and said, put your money away. And he took my suitcase and threw it in the back trunk of that Volkswagen, and it was a Baja Bug because it had the little the exhaust pipe was pointing straight up in the air on the back end of it, and the whole back motor was like exposed, And we rolled up to his house, and I'm gonna tell you, I was kind of straight impressed, because he lived one block shy. He lived one block shy of Beverly Hills, but when it only takes you 45 seconds to walk into Beverly Hills, to me, I'm like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm letting my cousin Kevin them know, man, I'm living large out here. Trust, Uncle Joe, call him Uncle, even though he was my cousin. I'm like, Uncle Joe got it going on, man, and I'm sleeping on his couch. This is good business for me, And so as I got to know my cousin Joe, aka Uncle Joe, he was a photographer for Soul Train. I got to go on the set of Soul Train a couple times. That was really cool, even though I consider myself a dance aficionado myself. I think I can hold my own on a dance floor, but it was nice watching them. But then, you're looking around the house, because, once you're living with somebody, you kind of rummage around, and, he had books, and these were real books. They weren't like show books. These were books he read. You could tell these books were handled and read, and there were a lot of them. In addition to all the, photographers' paraphernalia laying around, the lenses and, tripods and all that, because he wasn't a wannabe photographer. He even had his work shown in art galleries. As a matter of fact, and that's my beautiful segue into the 1968 DNC convention in Chicago, my cousin Joe, a.k.a. Uncle Joe, was actually there. He was one of the photographers at that event, and his work ended up in the National Geographic. Know how I know? Because I opened up the National Geographic that was on the bookshelf and looked through it, and lo and behold, there it was. And so I just went to the back of the house, and I'm like, Joe, you were at the 68 convention? Yeah, kiddo. It was pretty interesting, man. What'd you think about those pictures, man? He was just so cool. And I'm looking at the pictures, and some of them were in, being a military cop, and, I'm all into the tactics, and, Miami Vice was hot back then. And so I'm looking at these pictures, And I'm like, this very cool, very smooth, peaceful guy, Joe Flowers, was in the line of danger. Those pictures he took, he had to be in some pretty hot spots to get those. I mean, wow. And so from a tactical sense, I'm looking at my cousin Joe, and I'm like, man, I had a whole different respect for the man. You know, he's like, yeah, see right here? And I was right there just when that shot went off. I'm like, wow. You know, and that's why his pictures ended up in the National Geographic. So we're going to start right there. We're going to start right there. The violence of the 1968 Democrat Convention. Now, you would say, what would start a fight? What would start a riot? You know, like a Zoot Suit riot. Zoot Suit riot. Hey. Anyway, so you would ask yourself, what started this? These are Democrats. These are the homies. This your partner, right? And you're going, what? And so, make a long story short, you look into it. You know, you get to looking into it, and I see where my man, and I liked him, Richard J. Daley, was the mayor. Now, isn't it ironic that during the 1968 convention, the son of Mayor Richard J. Daley was in college, but he would ultimately end up being one of the campaign managers for Barack Obama. That's just the connectivities of those are just too much to ignore sometimes. It's like, wow. So here we go. Why would they have, a fight at the Democrat National Convention? Why? Because it was the old Democrat Party versus the new Democrat Party. And they weren't having none of that old stuff. Because, see, I'm going to tell you something. Blue Dogs and Dixiecrats and all that. There was a time when Democrats weren't so far gone. They had some sense in their heads, and they were as American as you or I. Really. I mean, let's be realistic about it. John Fitzgerald Kennedy wouldn't even be welcomed in the Democrat Party today. If that man tried to go and run as a Democrat, I think he'd get beat up. So here we are, the 68 convention. Violence popping off everywhere. Let's see if we can do this the right way here. Read a couple captions from an actual article from that time. What did this cop say? From 1968, he said, "We knew that there was going to be an enormous challenge on the streets. It was a sort of challenge to the system," Daley said, "and my father," this is actually a quote from Mayor Daley, "and my father believed that he was a defender of the city." Am I reading this wrong, ladies and gentlemen? I did, didn't I? This is Mayor Daley's son, the guy who would go on to be Barack Obama's campaign manager. They got it all jumbled up here. I would do it, a different way, but I got to read it the way they wrote it. With thousands of protesters expected, 12,000 Chicago police officers were deployed along with the National Guard. On August 25th, Walter Cronkite noted on air, "The Democratic Convention is about to begin in a police state. There just doesn't seem to be any other way to say it." A police state. You don't hear them saying that about Republicans. Republicans was cool. The police state, as Walter Cronkite would say it, was on the Democrat side. This is Democrats ready to scrap with each other. Not long before joining CBS News, Bob Schieffer was a young reporter in 1968, attending his first national convention. This is his quote. "The country was being torn apart by the Vietnam War," he said. "There were demonstrations every day, all over the country, and then here comes the Democratic Convention in Chicago. It was supposed to be a place where the Democrats were going to get their business all together. But everybody knew it was going to be difficult." How is it difficult in your own house? What they say about a house divided, it shall not stand. So here the Democrats are in 1968. This is in the heart of the civil rights movement. You would think that they would be all together. Na, 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 na. But we got to remember, these are the same cats in 1964, just 4 years before, who said hell no to the Civil Rights Act. Hell no to the Civil Rights Act. So you scoot up 4 years, and it's 1968. It's August. It's hot. Hot summer in Chicago. And the Democrats is mad as hell at each other. Wonder why. Was that the time when some of this insipid, nasty cheese got slipped into the mix of the Democrat Party that now in 2019 we have to deal with because we allowed it to foment and hang around and get stanky like 3-day-old collard greens? How y'all gonna be mad at each other? And y'all supposed to have it together. The primaries have been explosive. President Johnson was forced out by the success of Senator Eugene McCarthy in New Hampshire. Robert Kennedy was assassinated the night he won the California primary. Aha. Aha. Remember what I said about JFK not being welcome in the Democrat Party today? Maybe somebody knew something that we are learning the hard way now. Because you're right. They took his brother out. The minute he won the nomination, they were like, we're not even going to deal with the possibility of another Kennedy. And they took him out. Permanently changing the face of the Democrat Party. Permanently changing the heart of the Democrat Party. Because it was really never the same after that. One Kennedy after the other. And yeah, they had their share of mess. You know, one of them was kicking it with Marilyn Monroe and all of that. But I'll say this much. I have studied John F. Kennedy. I have watched some of his things. The guy was pretty cool. In fact, he's the one that coined the incredible patriotic statement of, ask not what your country can do for you. Instead, ask what can you do for your country. Man, those are enduring words that are good even today. But they still wouldn't have him as their representative of the Democrat Party in 2019. Now would they? Hubert Humphrey was the establishment, Schieffer said, and he represented the big bosses in the traditional Democrat Party. The politicians, the big city mayors, they were certainly not satisfied with Gene McCarthy. His sole campaign was, I'll end the war in Vietnam. You know, spitting on our soldiers and calling them baby killers and all that stuff, while brothers are still getting hit with billy clubs because they just want to eat a cheeseburger at Walmart, and the Democrats are saying, hell no, we ain't signing that paper, Negro. This is the Democrat Party, y'all. In the heart of the civil rights movement. Beating each other up, not having any peace, causing our National Guard to have to come to their convention. And people wonder why I'm not feeling the Democrats. Because there ain't nothing there to feel, man. These dudes they bad. This is almost, 50 years ago. Almost the same time. Whoops. There it is. Got to take another station break, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back with more of that stuff on the DNC.
She passed by in a black Mercedes. Damn, she fine. The way her body's moving.
I popped the Perrier shoe-way, trying to get the two-way cracking. Me and you back in the back of the back room, acting like you can't come back soon enough to do it rough. Cause you a bluff, but I'm a winner. I get hold, watch your pretty legs fold.
The Southside Unicorn Show is my favorite. Why? Because host Ken White tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, no matter how controversial. I love it.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize it's
Hey, it's Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and it is the third segment of Wassup Saturday, which is titled, All They Do Is Boo. You know, the last two segments, we were just slowly going through the history of the Democrat Party, and a little bit of my history, too, as a matter of fact, you know, talking about this and that, and, you know, going down memory lane and all that stuff. And I just, you know, it just brings me back to all the different issues that we've had in our country. And, you know, you're talking about the riots of the Democrat National Convention in 1968. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm sitting here still wrestling with the Rodney King riots because they both look the same. If you turn them into black and white pictures, don't let them have no color, and do like my Uncle Joe, a.k.a. Cousin Joe, you know, well, that's his real name, Cousin Joe, and get up in the heat of the battle and just take the pictures. What's the difference between the 1968 National Convention and the Rodney King riots? Not much. Same people. Actually, it's not. Here, wow, that's crazy. 1968, white college people, the white power base of the Democrat Party was having at each other, struggling for a new identity. You know, the one where those same people became college professors today. And that's what they were tearing up the town for. Rodney King, because he didn't pull over his car, because cops had contempt of cop, because that was the social norm before, iPhones came out, before iPhone 6, brother would get beat down with impunity. Because that's what they were doing. I mean, think about it. You go all the way back to 1964, 68, 71. And, a brother getting beat down by a cop was a normal occurrence. I saw it with my own two eyes. I saw a brother talk back to a cop one night on a Saturday night. And, in Chicago, they call it a billy club, He took it out. The British call it a truncheon. Some people call it a nightstick. Flash forward into the 21st century, and we call it a PR-24. But the bottom line is, he got beat badly. Same way Rodney King did, which sparked the Rodney King riots. And here's my epiphany. My epiphany is, whites were doing the same damn thing, getting beat up by the cops, National Guard, because they were fighting to change the identity of the Democrat Party. And then flash forward, and blacks who had their civil rights, or supposedly had them, are fighting the same establishment over mistreatment and an inability to get along, which is what Rodney King was arguing. Can we all just get along? Well, evidently it doesn't seem like we can do that with Democrats. They will never be satisfied. Everything I look at, everything I touch about them has discourse, acrimony, anger, violence attached to them. Am I hating on them? Am I trying to stir something up? No. I'm just telling the truth. So we get a better understanding of what we must not let come again, what we must prepare ourselves for as we hurl towards November 3rd, 2020. We're headed that way with a bunch of people who are violent, who like to stir it up, who get mad at people who don't give them their way. And speaking of the 1968 Democrat Convention being a spark because of the old versus the new, man, what's going on up in that Democrat Party now? You got Ayanna Pressley, you got Ilhan Omar, you got Shaida Tlaib, all these people, man. AOC. You got the same thing happening all over again. You got the old versus the new. Now, this is the scary part. The very same people, Nancy Pelosi, Obama, all these people, they are the representation of the clutch up from the old Dixiecrats and the Blue Dogs and stuff dying. Okay, they faded out, and the Democrat Party got usurped. It got co-opted by this leftist, socialist, Marxist, fascist group of people. Now, it was bad enough even in the 80s and the 90s, in the low 2000s. They were radicals to us. And now there's a new fight in the Democrat Party of young people trying to push out the old people. And they're more radical than the last ones that had control over the Democrat Party. Now that is something to ponder. I think we're going to be having a little bit of problems here, ladies and gentlemen, and we had best get ready for it. Because I ask you this, what is the alternative? To me, it don't look like they're going to ever change. The Democrat Party is the party of turmoil. The Democrat Party is the party of confrontation. That's who they are. So, looking at 1968, we may as well be looking at 2019 at the same time. Just change the names, The city said in a year of assassinations and riots, it couldn't grant permits to protesters to march on the convention or sleep in city parks. And that makes sense. Why would you want to do that, right? Bill Giaconetti was a rookie policeman in 1968, posted to the protest in Grant Park. Now, this is a quote from the cop. They had his name up top, but then they moved it down to and this is what he said as a quote. We knew the convention was coming to town, and we knew that there was probably going to be some problems, he said. I had come home from being in Korea. I was stationed on the DMZ, and the next trip, all my buddies went to Vietnam. Wednesday night, August 28th, the confrontation that had been building all week, probably all year, burst open onto the streets between Grant Park and the convention headquarters hotel. And see, that's pretty much in the areas where my cousin Joe Flowers was taking those pictures. He was in the heat of the battle. Click, click, my man go. Because back in the day, journalists were only concerned with the truth. Now let something pop off at a Democratic convention this time, and the media will all but turn their cameras off and put up curtains. They would all but turn their cameras off and put up curtains. That's how far down the grass we have slid. They call it a slippery slope. Well, we're picking up speed. We're digging our hands into the grass and in the dirt and saying, no, we can't go any further. And we're steady sliding. Because now the media is coming up with these fake polls. Over half the people want Trump impeached. You are a damn lie. But of course, they're going to go full court press, right? Back to the story. Giaconetti recalled, the first deputy said, clear the streets. After about, maybe 5 or 6 warnings, and then the final warning, he said, if you don't move out of the streets, my officers are going to clear the streets. And that's what he had to do on that night. Because, see, these young radical Democrats of the 1960s wasn't going nowhere. Oh, did they respect the cops? Hell no. Do they respect the cops today? Hell no. So what's the difference between 1968 and 2019? Cops told them 6 times, clear the streets. They didn't budge. We got people that stand in the middle of the streets right now. Mothers trying to get to work, lose their job. Sick people trying to get to the hospital, dying in the ambulance because it can't move. And who's blocking the street? Democrats. Let's see, we go on a little bit more. One bandaged witness described what happened next. They were just swinging their clubs like a bunch of idiots. See how erudite, see how arrogant they are? They're still the same way today. They will push and push and push to a point that you just can't take it no more. And then when you react in a normal fashion to their redunculousness, oh, you're wrong. I want to just read that again because that just makes it, so poignant. The cops told them 6 to 7 times to clear the streets, or we would have to clear it. So one bandaged witness described what happened next. Quote, they were just swinging their clubs like a bunch of idiots. Why are we always the idiots? And they're the ones that don't have the good sense to use the Constitution the way it was designed, to have what's called, peaceful protest. They had already denied them the permits, told them because it was too dangerous, because they were reeling from assassinations. Come on, you got to remember, that was a very sensitive time back in the 60s. We lost every leader that we had. Malcolm X, Dr. King, Abernathy, the Kennedys. Pop, 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 one after the other. And here come these new style Democrats refusing to clear the streets, refusing to obey lawful orders, causing trouble, making the trouble, disrespecting what? Law and Order. 1968. Flash forward, 2019. This is part of why I don't feel Democrats. This is part of why I look at black people and I go, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, remember, and it sort of reminds me, and you know me, I'm all over the place sometimes, but it reminds me of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in, what's that movie called? Predator. You know? And he was like, what the hell are you? And so the Predator was like looking at him, he went, what the hell are you? Well, that's me looking at a black Democrat. What the hell are you? In the 21st century, when you see the fascism, when you see the Marxism, when you see the socialism, none of those things have ever worked for any society, save and let alone especially black folk. If it worked, then Papa Doc Duvalier would be cool as hell. If it worked, Idi Amin Dada would be Big Daddy. You know what I'm saying? If it worked, Pol Pot would be cool. If it worked, Venezuela wouldn't have money floating down in the gutters because it's worthless right now. And yet there you brothers are, breaking your neck, trying to defend the Democrat Party. You know, the same party that Andrew Cuomo belongs to. You know, the guy that used the N-word at 8 o'clock in the morning on a national TV show because, see, he's part Sicilian. So he gets to say that, right? And ain't none of y'all said a word since he did that. The man went, I'm part Sicilian, so excuse my use of the word. I'm just trying to be correct here. And y'all ain't said a word. Democrats in the 60s messing with the cops, and it's the cops' fault. Democrats in the 2019s messing with the cops, and it's the cops' fault. Calling us the N-word. Got Democrat representative congresswomen with the Max cross, the Nazi cross on a vajayjay. And y'all still ain't said a word. You're going to let her act like, this is just the Republicans and slut shaming. Always blaming somebody else. You know, just like the person back in 1968. You know, the cops are idiots for using the maximum force necessary to remove that threat. And y'all cool with these people. I'm not. And I know exactly why. I know why. Because I studied all this stuff even as a kid and went, there ain't no way in the hell I can be cool with these people. These people whacked, man. Whacked. But we're going to continue with the story when we come back after this next break. Be right back after these messages.
Hey, my name is Toot Sweet, and I'm New York City's original artist singing for the cause of freedom. I've spent the last 10 years of my life documenting history through my music. It's like a recipe that's blessing me, bringing out the best of me, aggressively testing me to create my own destiny and understanding, universally accepting adversity and learn more lessons in life than you're learning any. And when I'm in need of a dose of reality to escape the liberal land of make-believe, I tune in to the Southside Unicorn, where the truth is as solid as New York City concrete. My name is Toot Sweet, and you're listening to my friend Ken White on the Southside Unicorn, and this party is just getting started.
Hey, it's Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and we are back for segment number 3. No, actually, I stand corrected. Wow, this show is going by so fast. This is actually segment 4. But we're going to make it do what it do. Now, you know, we go back and we look at all the situations and the turmoil in the 1960s. You know, and like I said, we lost a lot of great leaders back then. Who was pulling the trigger on them? Who was kicking them off the planet? Show me the fingerprint of one Republican on the hands, pardon me, getting a little carried away here. Show me the fingerprints of a Republican on the hands of the weapon, you know, or hand on the weapon that took those lives. Sirhan. You know, I could go on. but you won't find no Republicans attached to it. These were Democrats taking out the brothers, and some people with Middle Eastern backgrounds taking out some of the white boys too. See a pattern yet, y'all? So, I think I made my point about the base, about the start, because when you look at the Democrat Party, the 1908 DNC had violence. 1908, and they were scrapping, had violence at the Democrat convention. And it went a while, and it kind of calmed down until the 60s. And then, you had the riots in Chicago. Then after that, kind of calmed down a little bit more. So I think they overdue. And when you stop to think about this one, fact, and it is just, so much, ladies and gentlemen, to try to cover in less than an hour. But we're going to try to do it to explain all this, booing and whatnot that they're doing with our president. Watch this. You try to track a crime back to its origins. You try to go back to the scene of the crime, try to figure it out. Well, there was some bloodletting in 1968 and a changing of the guard, and this radical energy took over the Democrat Party, and it got progressively worse and progressively worse and worse and worse, and it just kept on going, till we get to this ridiculousness that we're at today. But there had to be a starting point, like a morphine, like a metamorphosis. Everything does. It goes into a cocoon stage, or chrysalis, and all, and then it changes, but not into butterflies, not these buzzards, But it had to have a starting point in our timeline to kind of make sense for how bad they've gotten now. Because I've coined them the meat puppets for demons. I'm sorry, but that's my title for some of them. When they blatantly lie, like Schiff and Pelosi. This is about patriotism. The devil is a liar. Every time you look at them and they try to smother themselves in patriotic, tropes and platitudes, that's because they want to tear the heart out of our nation. And I'm going to prove something to you. Watch this. Sometimes you can go too far. And I think the Democrat Party on July 21st, 2012, went too far. What they did was this. Normally, there's a benediction, okay? And a benediction is where you have a good word, where you pray over your event, and that's something that we do in America. We've done it since time immemorial. We've had benedictions at our commencements, and the Democrat Party was no different. They used to have benedictions too, and on that ill-fated day, they didn't do a benediction. The National Party Convention had been pretty tame since the 1970s, when major changes were adopted to reduce the likelihood of any clashes on the floor. That could change this year, and in 2012, there was one moment that might be worth taking a look at to see how possible floor fights at the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania could go. Surprisingly contentious moments had to do with God and the capital of Israel. If you watch the video, you might, see yourself wondering, are they really booing God at the National Convention? Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, they did. The Democrat National Convention, the host body of the Democrats, which was chaired by Antonio Villaraigosa, who was the mayor of Los Angeles at the time, the city of lost angels. He was chairing it. And they had to go back because what had happened was they basically started without any benediction, without any recognition of God, without any recognition that Israel was supposed to they were supposed to move the capitals. And so what you get is the quorum was there because the delegates are there, and they were doing by round of applause, a voice, 2/3 would carry it. And so I want you to listen to this for yourself, and you be an ear witness. I might stop it in certain spots just to add a little commentary, but this is an actual tape of 2012, July, DNC. Ready? Let's go.
President Obama recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and our party's platform should as well. Mr. Chairman, I have submitted my amendment in writing, and I believe it is being projected on the screen for the delegates to see. I move adoption of the amendment as submitted and shown to the delegates.
A motion has been made. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the matter requires a 2/3 vote in the affirmative. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the... Let me do that again.
The man was absolutely flummoxed. He could not believe what he had just heard. He asked them to approve it and move it forward, and the nay had it, and that set Viragosa back. It literally floored the man. He's like, whoa, did I just hear the Democrat Party turn God down, turn down doing the benediction, turn down affirming that Israel should have its own capital? Did I just hear that? So he did a second vote on it, which he really shouldn't have done, but he did. So let's go ahead and listen to it again.
It's been made. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the matter requires a 2/3 vote in the affirmative. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the... Let me do that again. All of those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no.
He's shocked.
I guess...
Let them do what they're going to do.
I'll do that one more time. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 have voted in the affirmative. The motion is adopted, and the platform has been amended as shown on the screen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Governor Strickland, thank you again for your service. Governor Strickland, thank you again for your service.
They booed because what Antonio Viragosa did was he overruled them. You heard them. They said, we don't want God here. We don't want to recognize Israel. Boo, get it out of here. And he, being I guess I got to give him some props. Being a normal person, he was shocked by that. He's like, I don't care what y'all out there doing. The motion is passed. We're going to go ahead and reinsert the benediction, which they did, to booze. And we're going to carry over the idea that recognizing, Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, right? Now let's get down to the real brass tacks. We don't fight in the physical, but we war with principalities. That's what I am being taught. That's what I understand. That this is a spiritual war. So what happens to you when there's hundreds of you? Just like being at the foot of Mount Sinai or whatever. What happens to you when the Holy Spirit wants to sit down on your convention? Because see, you're leaders. You're leading the precincts. You're leading the cities as mayors. You're leading the states as governors and senators, and you're the leaders. And the Holy Spirit is right there going, yeah, invite me in. But it's timid, and it respects free will. So if the Holy Spirit is sitting at your convention, ready to come on in, if you invite it, and it's met with boos, boo, the Holy Spirit leaves you, and you've committed a great sin. And you've possibly, and I shouldn't even use the word possibly, I kind of know this without a doubt, you have cursed yourself. Could that be why the Democrat Party has approved abortions that are literally tantamount to murder? Could that be why it's so easy for them to lie and slander? Could that be why kiddie porn people end up dead in jail cells? because a president used to be on the plane with this guy, flying hitherto to places where if you knew young ladies were at and you were an upright man, there ain't no way you wouldn't even want your plane to fly over a place like that, let alone get in it and dump your bodyguards and go hang out there for days at a time. Could that be why we have this incredible Russian collusion lie? And oh, we're going to impeach you over a phone call. Wait. What was that phone call about? Let's get him. We're going to get him. We don't really want to. This is a somber moment, and we really regret it, but it's for patriotism. That's exactly what the devil would tell you. He would take on the form of someone you knew and loved just to trick you into letting him get closer. So the one time I've ever seen Nancy Pelosi with an American flag is the day she says, we're going to move forward with impeachment because we're patriots. No, you're not. All I got to do is go back and look from 1968 to today. All you've ever done, your party, is lie, kill, steal, and destroy. What does that make you? Who's your boss? What's really going on? America, we don't have to hate them. We don't have to do that. But we better recognize what and who the hell they are. Stop playing with them. Be strong in our might. And understand, put on your armor. Get it all on. Make sure it's buckled down tight. And get ready. Because they ain't going nowhere. As you can see, it's 50 years. No, wait a minute. Come on. The first known fight at a Democrat convention was in 1908. So we're talking almost 90 years of scrapping with these people. That's what they do. Do you think they're really going to let the election of 2020 go by without a fight? They're going to impeach the president. We know that. And the Senate, if it's got his head screwed on right, they're going to shut it down. Shut him down. Shut him down. We shut him down. You know what I'm saying? They're going to shut that mess down. And President Donald J. Trump is going to win 2020 on such a level that it might even go into the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest vote cast for a single president in an election. You heard me say it on the Southside Unicorn Show. That's probably what's going to happen. Howsoever, I don't think they're going to put on no pink hats this time, y'all. They might put on pink helmets. Hell, they might even put on blue helmets, if you know what I mean. And any of it and all of it, we had better be ready to repel. No different than the Chicago police when they told them, we're giving you instructions to disperse. We're telling you to leave. Now, granted, when we start swinging, we're going to be idiots. Because Trump supporters are, we're bots and we're this and we're that. We're the dummies because that's the way they do it. They sit there and goad us until it's almost impossible to ignore them. And then when we react, we're the bad guy. Well, I guess I'm just going to have to be what? The bad guy. You got it. That's right. Now, that's the message that should come from this because all they do is boo. They booed our president going into the baseball game, and now this guy, Mr. Little, or whatever, now he can't go to the White House. I wished he had never invited them, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. We'll make it do what it do. Man, time goes so fast on the Southside Unicorn Show. Look, go ahead and retweet the show. If you like it, pass the word. Tell people there's a new show in town, and to go ahead and listen to it and get a little education on that. Catch me on my Twitter page at KenWhite4444. I'll be there. Hopefully you'll be there. Let's continue the conversation. But for right now, we gone.